Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock, Drogheda. Last week saw the death of David Dushman. Now, that name may not mean anything to you. I wasn't aware of who David Dushman was until I read about his death last week. But he was the last liberator of Auschwitz. At the end of the Second World War in 1945, whenever Russian troops arrived at Auschwitz and released the prisoners from that death camp. And David Dushman was a tank driver. And what he did, he drove his tank over the electric fence at Auschwitz so that other soldiers could go in and rescue people and bring them out and try to save the lives of people who were basically overworked and starved and at death's door. He was 98 years old when he died last week. And his death is a reminder not just of the horrible events that happened in World War II, but the tremendous cost that was paid in order to overcome the evil of the Nazi regime. You know, we often think about when we talk about the Allied forces, we think about the British, we think about the Americans. But David Dushman, he was part of a division of 12,000 men in the Red Army, and only 69 of those 12,000 men actually survived until the end of the war. All of the rest of them were killed. He later on he was a fencer, fencing with a sword, and actually ended up representing the Soviet Union in the Olympic Games after the war. But David Dushman is a reminder of a past that we need to remember. We cannot afford to forget the evils that were perpetrated in the Holocaust all those years ago. Some time back, a number of years back, I was at a conference in the Black Forest in Germany, and I was early with a colleague on our way back to the airport, and we saw a sign for Dachau. And we went and we visited the Dachau concentration camp. It's still standing there. You can still go in. It's a museum now. And really just moved us to tears, the memorial to the suffering that went on there by that horrible Nazi regime. But you know, David Dushman and people like him were links with the past. They were eyewitnesses to the things that happened. And yes, we have photographic evidence and films and everything else, but very few eyewitnesses are left of those events now. I've had the privilege of hearing several Holocaust survivors share their stories, including here in Ireland, our own Tommy Reichenthal, who is now 85 years old and was imprisoned in the Bergen concentration camp as a child. But as these voices pass, and in a few more years, there won't be any more eyewitnesses left alive to these events. And I think back, my own father, who's dead now, my own father would have been at school at the time whenever David Dushman, who by the way was a Jew himself, and that made it all the more poignant as he drove his tank over the electric fence at Auschwitz to be a liberator. But my father was at school when that happened. I remember talking with my grandfather, telling his stories about his participation in the First World War. And now none of those soldiers that fought in that war are left alive anymore. So we need to listen to the eyewitnesses, but we also need to make sure that even when they pass, that we never forget these kind of events that happened. And we will make sure that never again will we allow such evil to rise up in our society, and such hatred and scapegoating and racism and intolerance. And we as the people of God need to be people who say we will not forget these things, we will remember them, and we will remind the nation in which we live and the people around us that our God sees all that happens in the past, but our God has something better in store for the future. May God bless you today. I pray that today you will take time to remember those like David Dushman who risked their lives in order to fight against evil. And I pray that we ourselves, in the opportunities we have, will stand up today for truth and righteousness in Jesus' name. God bless you. Join us next time for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.